Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever, where today we have a 4v4 cast on the cards on the map Falconstone River. And before we get into introducing our players, I would like to bring attention to the screen where I have the new upload schedule for the channel placed right here. It's the basic format of FAF on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and of course other games on Tuesday, Thursday, and then the weekends or just random mystery days. With that out of the way, let's get into introducing our players after you hit that like and subscribe button, or dislike and leave a comment telling me what your favorite flavor of ice cream is. Alright, starting with Team 1 up here in the northern section of the map, and starting on the western side of the team, we have an orange Cybran going first land by the name of Seal Force. Moving down to the southeast, we have ourselves a gray Seraphim going first land by the name of Henricus Rex. I think that's what it is, or Henricus Rex. And then moving on to his next ally, we have a blue Aeon going first land by the name of Carlo Rainerto. We're just going to call him Carlo Rainerto. That's what I'm going with, though. Then we have ourselves a purple Cybran going first land by the name of Space Whales. And moving on to Team 2, we have ourselves in the far west a pink Cybran going first land by the name of RKX. To his east, we have a red Cybran going first air by the name of Terminator. Oh, it's Terminator 619. There is no T there. Strange. Then we have a yellow Cybran represent for Team 2. Very, very pumped to see all this action. And his name is High Resolution. He has, of course, gone first land. And last, but certainly not least for the entire game, the Titan Prince himself. It is Icy Nightmare. Out strutting his stuff again after his stunning match played on Dunes, the cast called Greatest of All Time, if you want to look that up and see why he has so much fuss about him. And of course, we're looking at the map Falconstone River with over 30,000 reclaim, actually 35,000 reclaim, for these players to suck up and to use to boost their economies. There's a lot of expansion. There's this kind of impassable, intraversable area of kind of darker map. It's kind of just the black area outside. So while it's a 20 by 20, it plays a little bit more like a 10 by 10 with how much gameplay area there actually is. Does lead to things like being able to sneak experimentals around this back area, because while you're playing, it doesn't feel like this area exists as much as you would think, and overall, just very interesting forms of gameplay. Terminator, the only player to start first air, went with a early bomber, and we're just going to call him Terminator for the sake of my sanity. We will substitute the lack of T with a T, and I'm sure the British will love me talking about T. And overall, this bomber having some troubles with the terrain, but I'm sure momentarily will find some engineers to bomb. That's an ACU, you don't really want to bomb. That is going to get a bomb off onto some engineers, so yep, that was admittedly correct. And we're going to be turning around. Wonder where the next target is. Already up to 1 kill, which is pretty nice. I don't see any more engineers on the field. Maybe that one could be targeted. He's going to start moving that direction. I think that there's an attack target onto that engineer. The engineer is going to try and dodge, but it's not going to work. It's too late for the dodge now. And that engineer going to go down. 2 engineers down for the man in gray, losing all of the expanding engineers. The Zeus gonna go down to a interceptor. Almost gets a tank, so does get a little bit more value out of itself. The reclaim only 73 and killed off more than 73 mass worth of engineers, and probably it left this tank on 6 health. We'll give it that tank to add on. to its value. So Terminator with the early aggression seems like it's going pretty well for him. Of course, this map normally having 5 starting slots, meaning that there's a extra starting slot. This time, the extra eco being grabbed up by High Resolution being a bit greedy, and I have to commend that. On the other side of the map, it seems as though this entire expansion, though, is going to be taken up by Carlo Reinarto. Man, I don't know why I really want to get that name right, but Carlo going to be grabbing up this. And we have a lot of power now being queued up for the purple Cybran by the name of Space Whales. He does not want a power stall, so he's just going to build all of the power generators at Tech 1. And overall, we have a few things developing. There is a drop over here to the west out from Seal Force, one of the highest rated players in the game, who, along with Icy Nightmare, both these players, the 2 highest rated, 2 biggest threats on each team. This was, of course, played on the Team Matchmaker, so it is 96% balanced, a very balanced game. Team Matchmaker, much, much fun. In fact, I'm going to be playing that on stream in a few hours. Speaking of which, I'm going to be streaming a little bit more often now and a little bit more on a schedule. We're going to have 1 stream a week minimum of FAF and maybe another if I feel like it. But enough talking about content of the future. Let's talk about the content of now. So, right now, we're going to be seeing a lot of units spewing out on the eastern side, because that's just kind of Icy Nightmare's MO, and he's already up to 4 factories, and I will be surprised if we don't see even more thrown up in very short time. And he is also the most present with T1 land units so far. The only other player really producing nearly as much as him is, of course, going to be Carlo. And overall, these teams going to be all expanding out, all moving out onto the map somewhat equally. Comms going in every direction. This map a little bit interesting. We don't normally have this in the 4v4 TMM, but we have a map that very obviously has a air position, but it's not populated, so every single player has to play land, and you kind of have to divvy up who's going to do what. It's where voice comms and talking in chat really comes into its own. If I had to take a guess, I'm guessing one of the players on the flanks will take over air duty. I wouldn't think one of the players in the center, who have the closest route to the enemy base, would be the one doing air, but I could always be wrong. And you might also just see a situation where everybody goes for high-tech air. The danger with that is your opponents are going to invest more in land if you go for air and they don't. Over here in the center, we have some Aeon floaty death-causing stuff happening. I don't know why. I'm struggling with words so hard. But we have a lot of Aurora now amassing right here at this little river for which this map is named. And they could cross over and start causing some trouble for either High Resolution or Terminator. Over here to the far east, it seems as though Icy wants to continue the aggression, has a line of strikers starting to push their way forward and northward against their opponents. Overall, going to be a pretty decent trade of units for Icy, but also not a horrible trade for Spice Whales, because he's managing to maintain his map control. Overall, the map is splitting down a relatively equal line. I think that there might be a tiny bit of advantage going to be going over to the northern team, or Team 1. Team 2 not quite expanding as quickly as their opponents. With the dropout from Seal Force, that's really accelerated his ability to build up a decent number of mass extractors and some forward production, which means he's going to have a pretty strong hold over on the western side, and he is, of course, up against RKX. With the match being mirror balanced, we're going to see a bit of a yin-yang this game, as the 2 highest rated players are going up against 2 of the lower rated players in the match, both of them going up against somebody at least 3 to maybe 400 rating points below them. So, gonna be interesting to see how it goes. Falconstone River, just talking about the map a little bit more. I haven't played it that much, but I really like the layout and aesthetic of this map. Overall, it seems as though the 2 carry positions on the map are the slots where the highest rated players are in my opinion. You have the slot occupied by Steel Force and Icy Nightmare. They expand pretty far out, but they have the ability to get out here, and I think they get the most mass extractors if they can get out here and take all the ones that that usually fall into their hands. So is going to be interesting to see that. Icy still trying to put pressure up here, but he's equalized as far as the unit count, so he's not really able to just bully his way through with more units. Over here in the center, High Resolution going to be under a lot of pressure by Fervor and Aurora coming out from Carlo. Carlo going to be trying to get aggressive with this. Of course, High Resolution does have the comm here, which means that this fight, while it looks really bad for High Resolution, he could very well take it and maybe even win it since he does have that. T2 now on the way for Carlo. Seems as though he wants to throw up some possible point defense, or maybe he just wants to get T2 power really early so that way he can spec into kind of an air build, as he does, of course, have 2 air factories for his position. Overall, on the western side, a bit of action going on. Engineer's going to be gunned down by the Gestapo hit squad of Seal Force, which, of course, is just the... It's not really Gestapo. It's not state police. It's Cybran, so it's better than that. It's something nice. It's sunshine and rainbow police. Totalitarianism? Ah, no, never heard of it. Overall, players starting to feud it out. Yet again, another fight happening over here. Icy constantly keeping the action going, constantly trying to press the issue over here. And it is just kind of in his nature. He really likes to poke and prod with land forces. He really likes to gain advantages. And right now, I think that this engagement just going better for Icy Nightmare. He's going to be able to push back the units of Space Whales, and maybe even going to be able to take out this Mass Extractor position and even deny another Mass Extractor, which is going T2. And that could be really annoying for the purple Cybran. Speaking of upgrades, we have T2 on the way for Icy's comm. He is very well known for his aggressive use of static defense. Over here in the center, it seems as though T2 is finished up for Terminator, and he has gotten himself a Cerberus, which is blapping away at some of the units out from Henricus Rex, who we haven't spoken about much, but has consistently expanded southwards towards his opponent, which is, of course, Terminator. Over to the east, it does seem as though Icy managed to gain a little bit of territory here. It's not going to mean that much, but it is a moral victory. I mean, it's only 2 mass a second, but if you can deny anything, you want to deny mass extractors. Overall, let's just take a step back and let's look at some of the economic points as we have crested the 10-minute mark, and it doesn't seem as though anybody's in danger of dying. We have a tactical missile launcher, I do want to point out from Space Whales. He's trying to get some economic damage done. T2 not finished up yet for Icy Nightmare, so he's going to be losing a bit of economy, as it can be assumed. I would be surprised if this T2 mech survives much longer. Overall, reclaim numbers, Space Whales in the lead with 7.2 thousand reclaim, Seal Force behind him at 6.6 thousand, Icy Nightmare behind him at 6.2 thousand, and then 5.3 thousand and 5.1 thousand for Carlo and RKX, respectively. Everybody else below 5,000. As far as economies go, High Resolution leading the pack. Let's just make sure that's not reclaim related. It is not. Of course, he is at 72 mass a second, so he's really been ecoing hard. I'd like to see some tactical missile defenses. He is going to be under TMD fire, or tactical missile fire, relatively soon. Behind him is Space Whales, behind at 70 mass a second, so these two players very close in the economy. RKX, Icy Nightmare, and Terminator are the next 3, falling in at 66, 59, and 47 mass a second. Everybody else is on Team 1, and that's going to mean that overall the economies are looking a lot better for Team 2. Team 2 ahead by nearly 80 mass a second, which is going to be kind of brutal for the units out, or for the players of Team 1. Space Whales trying to stop a incursion coming out from High Resolution, who's trying to assist Icy Nightmare. We saw a bunch of units coming out over here from Carlo to try and help Space Whales combat Icy Nightmare's presence over here on the far eastern side. A lot of units going to be dumped right here, and this is just going to leave a ton of reclaim, 4,000, and if we zoom in a little bit more, about 1,000 mass right on top of Space Whales comm. I'm sure he'll be happy to gobble up that mass in any second now. Over here to the central area, we have a bit of a fire base going up for Terminator, and a huge mass dump, as it seems as though both Henricus Rex and Carlo decided to push this position, or maybe it was just one or the other, but the ensuing battle is going to leave much more of a reclaim field, over 5,000, or nearly 5,000 mass for reclaim right now. If Terminator gets on top of that, it's going to put him in a very, very strong position. Over here to the west, we have a whole bunch of units starting to run past all of the defenses and units set up by Steel Force. This could be a pretty significant and huge run by. There are engineers trying to throw up PD, but that's just not gonna be enough. I mean, there's enough units here to just plow through the PD, and on top of that, I think there's maybe a Medusa or two. If they kill off the engineers and kill off this PD, it will go very well. If he decides to continue to push, RKX gonna have his units split in half though, so he won't be able to take a full-on fight with the full force of Steel Force's units. I know I just said force twice, a little bit awkward to talk about that, but a update on the tactical missile launcher, up to 2,400 mass killed. Gonna be very, very unhappy with that is Team 2, as Icy Nightmare has lost a T2 mechs, and it seems as though I would be heavily surprised. Yeah, another T2 mechs going down for High Resolution. High Resolution needs to get some T2 engineers out on the field. He needs to get that tactical missile defense up, but then again, this tactical missile launcher not really in the best of positions, not really able to threaten the very, very important mass extractors. The mass extractors of the main base is going to get economic damage and has been effective so far, but we need to make sure and keep an eye that he's not going to be tactical missiling T1 mexes, which it does seem as though that might be the case. No, he's tactical missiling the T2 radar. Don't know how much that's going to affect the vision game for Team 2, as there's a radar right here, which basically gives all of the same intel that T2 was, except for not of across the river. Over here to the far west, that force out from RKX that I was talking about earlier has managed to pick up multiple mexes, including a T2 mex back here, another T2 mex going down. This run by continuing to wreak havoc on the economy of Steel Force. This is going to set him behind a little bit, because now he's losing a decent chunk of his economy while he's down to the lowest economy in the game, but he's on T3. He's trying to produce bricks with 35 mass a second with heavy assistance. He is going to be in the mess stall of the ages if he doesn't manage to get a lot of reclaim flowing in right now, and it's just really going to be unfortunate for him, this run by taking a lot of wind out of his sails, as we can see in comparison his opponent Icy Nightmare up to almost 60 mass a second without losing that many mass extractors. He lost at least 1, 2, 3 Tech 2 mass extractor. Wait, 1, 2. Wasn't there a third one over here? Oh, it's already been reclaimed, but 3 Tech 2 mass extractors. That's going to be upsetting for anyone. And over here, it seems as though the mass extractors were divvied up evenly between the players. Each player getting 1 mass extractor, while Team 2 deciding to go with 2 players getting extra mass extractors in the bases, and 2 players just being told to kick it and have a nice day. Space Whales and Icy Nightmare continuing to brawl up here, but Space Whales starting to show up with a T2 force of Rhinos, and Icy is going to be able to use the comm over here, which does have a tactical missile launcher along with T2 and that Zephyr damage upgrade to deal damage. A tactical missile, a very big part of Icy Nightmare's playstyle. He really does enjoy using that upgrade, but right now it seems as though there's enough tactical missile defense to kind of dissuade anything from happening. The first tactical missile launcher sitting at 2580 mass killed. A second one built up. Both of these tactical missiles gonna be fired. I think he's trying to get past the buzzkills, but I'm not sure how effective that's going to be. Space Whale's investing a lot into this tactical missile game. He's going to be launching a lot of tactical missiles in very short succession, but is that going to be enough, as the tactical missiles are going to be broken up and shot down before they cause any major damage? I guess they take out one of the TMD, and we're going to see a lot of these smaller missiles impacting on a T2 mech and taking it out. Question is, at what cost? Because that's just going to be a decent bit of reclaim, like 486 reclaim. That's going to pay mostly for the T2 mechs. It'll pay more than half of it off. So he's going to be able to get that T2 mechs back up, and you're investing quite a bit in these tactical missiles to make this happen. Of course, it's always nice to get some economic damage, but you do have to ask that eternal question of at what cost, and ask yourself, is it worth it to continue investing in this strategy while you are losing your own mechs to the tactical missile that can move of Icy Nightmare? He has a mobile tactical missile, which is just better. The comm tactical missile, much superior to the ones that you build out of these... the ones that you build stationarily. Of course, Cybran having the advantage of the breaking up missiles, not necessarily going to lose all of their damage potential with just one enemy TMD. Over here to the west, there's a bit of a fire-based war going on. Now we are seeing Zutham. It's Zuithams going up. The Gunther's gonna have to be built in response, and there is one being built over here on the Hydro. A little bit dangerous to build this before the shield, especially whenever it's next to a hydrocarbon. Gonna take some damage if that goes down. I guess he's hoping that the enemy artillery focuses on his fire base. Over to the east, Icy's still continuing to push, and he's managed to rack up a tidy 5,000 mass killed, and most of this mass killed is gonna be on tactical missile launches. He is very much so going to be getting up to around 5 vet quickly if he is able to continue that efficiency he has right now. A brick! I believe this is a brick drop. Yeah, I would be surprised. There's no way he walked all the way down here and walked down and up. I think he just dropped it. Over here on the expansion of RKX, RKX going to lose 3 T2 mexes. Of course, this is a nice little response after losing so much economy to RKX a little bit earlier, but overall, Space Whale's probably wishing he had gotten more with that brick. Of course, up to 3,572 mass killed. Not a bad situation, as of course, Seal Force. The brick itself only costing 1,200, so that brick 3 times mass effective. As any, as you would expect, which is very nice. Early bricks always nice to have out in the field. I would be a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't go for any loyalists. I think going for loyalists right here would be a decent call. T3 Air, no, now on the way though for Seal Force. I think that loyalists are a perfectly good call if your opponent isn't even at T3 land yet. And he's scouting. He has intel right now that his opponent isn't at T3 land. T3 Air finished up for RKX, deciding to take that challenge on for his team. T3 Air also done for Terminator. So these players going to have a decent Air Force. The Whaler gunship going to be providing some AA along with the ASF out from RKX. These interceptors not going to kill off the Whaler gunship, which means that this is just going to be a bit of kills out for the Cybran T3 gunship. Gonna do some damage, which is gonna be unfortunate. The Whaler gonna come out, gonna try and deal more damage to this brick, try and maybe even kill it off. The brick does regenerate, so we could just see Seal Force continue to do this micro battle, throw it back into the water and let it regenerate its health. But I think he's just trying to get as much damage as possible, up to 4,700 mass killed as it kills off another T2 mechs. Over here to the east, the action calming down a little bit. We have a Viper spam strategy coming out from High Resolution, trying to break this fire base, and the calm of Space Bale's deciding to go back home. He doesn't want to be on the front line anymore, and he doesn't want to be fire basing anymore. Icy Nightmare, having different strategies and different plans, is continuing to keep his calm on the front and continuing to fire base, which is, of course, perfectly fine. We're only at 19 minutes. We're not going to be seeing anything crazy happening yet, but with T3 Air being proliferated for both teams, could see some snipes. I mean, you can snipe at T2 Air as well, but that phase is a little bit over, as these players will have shields and flak going up if they have not already got it. We have this, of course, artillery war. There is a Gunther built up for one side and 2 artillery built up for the other side. So these players continuing to fight. Seems as though Terminator wanted to get into a fight, but now there's a no man's land forming, and I think the first player out of these two to do an attack order is going to come out on top. Right now you can see this, and whenever we hold Alt, this is the range the engineer will reclaim. Whenever I hold Control Shift, this red circle that's moving, This is what you could do. You could easily just place an engineer within your own shields and start reclaiming a decent chunk of this 5,000 mass reclaim field. Got to keep those ideas in mind whenever you're whenever you're just trying to get any kind of extra income possible. And of course, we're gonna see a bit of pressure now coming out from various players. These mobile missile launchers still trying to deal damage onto the base of Space Whales, and Icy Nightmare sending some T1 units over here to try and help out with the pressure. A bunch of rhinos now forming in the middle for RKX, but there's a decent number of harbingers here. Rhinos will be able to fight harbingers for the moment. It's not going to be the most amazing situation whenever the harbingers get on top of the rhinos, or as long as the harbingers continue to abuse their range. But right now seems as though Carlo really trying to help out Space Whales, but Space Whales is just going to lose this position. Icy Nightmare up to T3 and living up to his name, building Titans, the Titan King, not to be assailed by non-Titan builders. Over here to the west, Rex is starting to try and put some pressure down, but he's just going to create more of a reclaim field right here. And the question is, who does get into this reclaim field first? I don't know for a fact if either of these players know about the attack move command being and how useful it is. More Gunthers going up on this hill for Terminator, and the fire-basing war going to continue. Looking at the mass values, Team 2 still ahead, but it's still about the same lead, still about 80 mass a second, and it seems as though Team 1 is handling that pretty well. Not overwhelming. It is unfortunate, of course. The brick over here, is this the brick with all the veterancy? Yeah, 5,000 mass killed, 3 vet brick, getting 18 health a second in the water over here. And this area trying to be rebuilt by RKX. He's trying to get this area rebuilt up with this T2 comm, but needs to be careful. There's going to be 3 bricks that can threaten him very, very soon, and that could be very dangerous for his comm. Overall, though, let's talk about the economies. Space Whales and Seal Force leading the pack, the first 2 players on Team 2 to crest that 100 mass second mark, that triple-digit mark. Space Whales at 152 and Seal Force at 111. On Team 2, we have 2 players who have also crested that point, with High Resolution and RKX, both over 140 mass a second, and fluctuating a little bit, but about 140 is pretty fair to give them. Icy Nightmare at 90 mass a second, Terminator at 86, 64 mass a second for Rex, and Carlo sitting on 62. That's how the economies are stacking up. Reclaim right now, Icy Nightmare leading the pack at 21,000 reclaim. This giant group of rhinos I was talking about earlier out from High Resolution did manage to push past his firebase and has managed to push in even deeper, is trying to make its way into the main base of Space Whales. The Harbingers have been chasing it the entire time. Harbingers racking up some veterancy as they continue to fire into the backlines and use their range. But overall, a bit of an unfortunate situation as the rhinos, of course, are going to have done a lot of economic damage and a lot of production damage right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mass extractors minimum have been lost in a very short period of time for Space Whales. He's still on a good economy. Speaking of Space Whales, he's the 3rd highest reclaim value player with 16,000 reclaim. His ally Seal Force at 19,000. Terminator and RKX at 14,000 and 10,000 respectively, and everybody else below 10,000 reclaim at 23 minutes. That is a area where players could always improve on. You really just want to make sure you're trying to get as much reclaim as possible. It really does help you out in games like these. Overall, there is a bit of spicy play now starting to happen over here on the northern side as Space Whales starts to produce his first experimental, a Monkey Lord. I don't know if that's the first experimental total. It does seem as though it might be a Strap Bomber Bomb over here from the looks of it. I wasn't really paying attention to that, but that's going to cripple the power economy for Rex. I bet he's trying to live on overflow. Yeah, he is, so that is going to help him out a little bit. Air, of course, causing issues is no foreigner to any player who plays FAF regularly. We now have Mass Titans starting to push over here, and of course Parashields, a thing Icy Nightmare preaches constantly if you go into VC a bit with him about how to use Titans. You need Parashields and Spearheads. Gonna see if he can show us exactly how strong this combination of units is. Would be surprised. Yep, there's a Spearhead in the backline there. Harbingers and Titans kind of duking it out now over here on this side. Harbingers are going to win this just straight up. It takes a few Titans to kill one Harbinger, but overall, it's a very cheap and effective force that Icy Nightmare is trying to throw together, and a bit same, the Harbinger, a bit cheaper than the other assault bots, and is a pretty effective force if used properly. Over here in the center now, Bricks pushing up behind the forces of Icy Nightmare. Icy is going to be using his Titans to head north. The Monkey Lord about 30% complete and rising, and overall going to be seeing a bit of aggression coming out on this eastern side. High Resolution and Icy Nightmare working together, constantly putting pressure out, constantly pushing, have pushed both Carlo and Space Whales back to pretty much their main bases. And with some tactical missiles going down, it seems as though these Spearheads, in maybe conjunction with Icy Nightmare, oh yes, definitely in conjunction with Icy Nightmare's comm, has managed to deal with all of the T2 economy coming out over here, and that's going to be brutal for Space Whales, who is still over 100 mass a second, but I'm sure he's been knocked down quite a peg as more Titans are streaming in on this eastern side, and Space Whales is faltering in the face of the aggression coming out from Team 2. Team 1 not able to get the same results done over here on the western side. There is a bit of there's a bit of contesting going on over here. These bricks in the water are still causing plenty of damage. Of course, we were talking earlier about how the comm was under threat. I think the comm decided to get out of there as more bricks starting showing up. There's a decent number of bricks now showing up over here, but now bricks are starting to be produced by RKX in response, and that's just gonna lead to a situation where RKX is going to kind of just be able to stop this harassment. Of course, maybe he won't be able to continue to hold on to these mass extractors, but at the very least, it's not nearly as bad as what's going on the northern side for Team 1. T3 mass extractors going up for various players. We have some T2 mechs going down that probably was a result of a strat bomber, if I had to take a guess, or maybe it was some kind of land incursion. But Carlo knocked down to 88 mass a second, and overall, all of the players on Team 2, since they haven't lost too much economy, over 100 mass a second. Team 1 still with only 2 players over that. Space Whales and Seal Force still ecoing pretty well. Seal Force, highest economy player at 195 mass a second. He was lagging behind heavily earlier, so it's nice to see him get back into this game economically and start to add pressure and start to bully RKX a little bit, but RKX holding his ground. These 3 mass extractors really sucks to not be able to build them, but he's ecoing really well elsewhere. And these bricks not being on the front line means that right now RKX is going to get more damage. Yet again, another big run by going to be happening for RKX. He's going to be killing off production. Most of this production probably producing Medusas or T1 engineers, if I had to just take a wild guess. But he's going to have multiple bands of units this time just running past, and now we're going to have to see if Seal Force can separate his units effectively enough to maintain his economy, because he's about to be losing more T2 mexes, capped T2 mexes at that point, at that 9 mass a second. Losing that multiple times over and over is gonna just be painful for Seal Force. The experiment we were speaking about earlier, that Monkey Lord finishing up for Space Whales, could be very dangerous. Of course, Icy Nightmare and the entirety of Team 2 is gonna know that that Monkey Lord was in production, as Titans did indeed scout it, if not the air. And now Icy Nightmare, I would be surprised if his comm wasn't moving a bit back towards home. He doesn't have enough to deal with a Monkey Lord right now, and I know he knows that. I don't know where his comm is, but oh no, his comm's still on the front line, still under a decent amount of threat. Do they know where the Monkey Lord is? Have they seen it? No, they haven't, and the engineers really haven't moved, so they can't really tell for sure if this is finished building or not. But overall, this run by over here out from RKX gonna get way more damage than it ever deserved to. The bricks out over here to the south, it seems as though the bricks tried to come out of the water for Seal Force, but as I said, he had bricks and a ton of T1 bombers waiting, not gonna deal any kind of significant damage. And that hero brick with all of the veterancy is now dead at the hands of the pink Cybran. Team 2 with the very heavy Cybran presence doing quite well for itself. In fact, all of the Cybern players in this game doing well for themselves. I mean, Seal Force, he has been pushed back. He has had issues, but he's ecoing pretty well, and he's the first player to get an experimental out in the field. The experimental transferred over to Carlo, who is currently trying to micro his Harbingers and the Monkey Lord against this. These bricks, they're going to deal a lot of damage. It's going to be down to half health. The Rhino's also going to pour in a lot of damage right here. Seems as though High Resolution is resigned to losing this force if he can manage to kill off the Monkey Lord. The Monkey Lord down to 16,000 HP, is racking up veterancy slowly. May get a second rank of veterancy if it's able to stay alive, but it's taking a lot of damage. Going to try and run away now. Don't know if that's the right call. Gonna rack up another 1,000 mass killed here in just a second. 14,000 mass killed. Needs another 6,000 mass killed to be able to get a rank of veterancy. Does kill off a very large army and leave a huge reclaim field of 24,000. Near, if you zoom out just a little bit, basically as much mass as was natural reclaim on the map is just right here. Whichever team can get into this field and start reclaiming it better and first is going to have a huge advantage. Of course, Harbinger is going to be able to reclaim, but they need to win the fight first. Over here to the north side, the force of Icy Nightmare, these Titans, Parashields, and Spearheads, going to start pushing forward, going to try and push into the base of Space Whales. On the western side, not really as much action going on. The run-by out from RKX still wreaking havoc. RKX, the man with units that are just gonna run past you. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's just gonna throw units around you. He's not gonna throw them at you. And he's now getting into the main base of Rex, who admittedly hasn't had a great showing so far this game. He's kind of just been firebasing against Red, but he's now going to have even less of a showing as his base is going to be left in tatters by the run-by force out from RKX. Icy Nightmare showing up with Titans, trying to get pressure down onto this Monkey Lord again, but I think this is just a mistake. Icy Nightmare showing up, a very unfortunate turn of events, but he's just going to lose a bunch of Titans after doing pretty well up here. I don't know how much you can pressure over here with Space Whales now building up a line of Cerberus and does have his own T3 production. And of course the Monkey Lord gifted over to Carlo means that he has a pretty nice defensive option over here. Needs to keep it moving. These spearheads could deal massive damage to the Monkey Lord. Titans trying to get on top of it, but 17,000 HP, you don't have a chance. Icy Nightmare just going to contribute to this mass field, which is up to 43,000 mass in a very small area. 35 on screen right now. It's going to be a huge amount of reclaim for Team 1. This could be the mass dump to change the game. That's a colossal mass dump. We're looking at experimental levels of reclaim right here, and whichever team can get their grubby little mitts on it, which will most likely be Team 1, is going to be very happy. Bricks out from Space Whales, now pushing south towards High Resolution's defensive area. High Resolution's territory and Icy Nightmare's territory. Icy Nightmare still not going to transition over to production of Percivals just yet, and I don't know if that's the right call or not, but overall, I'm sure he is well aware of what he's up against and what he needs to deal with. Overall economies currently, we're seeing RKX, Icy Nightmare, Terminator, High Resolution. All of Team 2 is ahead of every player on Team 1 except for Steel Force now passing up Terminator. This is a high economy game for Team 2, and they're over doubling the economy of Team 1. And that's just going to be a bit brutal as we're nearing the stage of the game where if you have half the economy of your opponent, you're just going to be crushed under the weight of that economy, and it does seem to be showing. Sure, the Monkey Lord, sure, these very mass efficient trades are going very well. Carlo at a 2-to-1 mass kill to loss ratio, doing very well with this Monkey Lord, doing amazing things, but efficiency only gets you so far. More shit counters less shit, so Team 1 needs to eco a little bit harder, or needs to damage the economy of their opponents very soon, because it's starting to look a little bit dire, especially with RKX getting multiple run-bys. Sure, he dumped a lot of mass, but he killed off a lot of mass extractors, and some of those could have been on upgrades. He's really crippled Rex, who still hasn't rebuilt one of his core mexes after that run-by, and it just caused a lot of damage. Megalith now on the way for Seal Force, and his air grid expanding. Seal Force and Space Whales trying to get anything done for their team. The only player currently under 100 mass generation this game is Rex. He is struggling this match, to say the least. over here in the center. He could be under threat of just dying if anybody on Team 2 decides to get an experimental up. And holy crap. RKX has decided he likes economy and he wants to be in the lead. Getting up 4 quantum gateways, the summoner, T3 quantum gateway for the Cybern. Gonna get up 4 of them with mass fabricators. Of course, this is a very heavy investment and it's gonna take a while to pay off, but once it does, my word, is it gonna pay off. It's just a time investment. He's banking on this game going quite a bit longer, and that is going to be his strategy right now. Over here to the east, a Monkey Lord built up for high resolution means that the Monkey Lord, while at really high, veterancy rank of 2, which is pretty high for an experimental. It's hard to get high veterancy experimentals. In regenerating 60 health a second, is going to be a little bit hard pressed to deal with a Monkey Lord and all of the army coming out from High Resolution and Icy Nightmare over here on the eastern side. Over to the west, another push between these two players who have been firebasing against each other. Rex trying to hold out against the forces of Terminator. Terminator gonna be throwing as much pressure as he can. He has some loyalists in the front trying to get in. If they can target down some shields, that would be amazing for his cause. He has some bricks coming up behind it, a lot of mantis just to kind of soak damage and make targeting a bit more difficult. And it seems as though Rex is just gonna be pushed off of this position momentarily, and that's gonna be unfortunate for Rex, as his fire base that he spent all game building is now gonna die, and he is just behind economically of everybody in the game. At this point, Rex is just gonna have to be. You have to play greedy at this point. You have to fall back with your comm and just say, "Hey, team, I can't hold. You need to help," and throw everything into economy. That is the correct play, in my opinion, right here. Just eco up. Over here to the east, we have a Monkey Lord battle ensuing. These two teams going at each other's throats, as teamwork is key here, and a lot of teamwork on display here. The Gifted Monkey Lord along with Restorers coming out, and the Monkey Lord Titan Force along with the units out from both Icy Nightmare and High Resolution over here. It seems as though both Monkey Lords are going to go down. I believe that is the case. And these two sides going to be left with a colossal mass field. And yet again, we have to ask the question, and this mostly for Team 2, at what cost? You kill the enemy Monkey Lord, you kill this army that Carlo has been trying to use to protect his side for so long, but Reclaim over here, we're looking at a situation where this Reclaim is starting to become ridiculous. We're getting close to 100,000 Reclaim in a very small area, and it's right on the doorstep of Team 1. You need to fight. I realize that maybe you're thinking, well, I left a huge mass reclaim field, I need to deal with that. But right now, we can see that this is affecting Team 2 very negatively. Space Wheel's now over everybody on Team 2 in a reclaim, and he has more engineers over here trying to reclaim. Would be surprised if Carlo doesn't even get in on this. He has a lot of engineers in the area, and that's just going to lead to problems for Team 2. Mass dumping for Team 1. Team 1 might be able to get back into the driver's seat this game. Over here on the east, yet another band of Titans showing up with their parashields and going to be killing off this attempt to expand for about the 100th time for Space Wheels, but credit to him, he is continuing to throw units over there, continuing to try and expand, continuing to try and see if Icy is getting lazy with his constant raiding. And overall, the economies of these teams going exponential. Team 2 is still ahead, but not nearly the lead they had of doubling their opponent's economy as they had not so long ago. Every player on Team 2 over 200 mass a second, while now every player on Team 1 just over 100. Rex trying to keep up and is playing greedily, as I said he really needed to, which is a good sign to see. But overall, yet again, as I said, the mass differential isn't that huge, but we're still talking about nearly 300 mass a second, if not 300 mass a second advantage for Team 2. Team 2 is in the driver's seat, and Team 2 needs to make good decisions here. Carlo, with the trade of the Monkey Lords, has managed to put a huge reclaim field right here, and there's a lot of reclaim now happening for both sides. One of those Monkey Lords fully scooped up, and the reclaim number is starting to skyrocket for Space Whales as he's sitting on 59,000. What is he working on? He's working on a Megalith. He's working on nuclear missiles, and I don't know if that's been spotted by Team 2. It has. Do we have anti-nukes built up? We also have a nuke built up for Icy Nightmare. Do we have SMD? This is where people would tell me that I need advanced unit icons or strategic unit icons. We have an SMD built and loaded for high resolution. Anything same for RKX. RKX has a built and loaded anti-nuke. So we're going to have to see multiple nukes out from Team 1 if they want to break either of the flanks of Team 2. But Team 1, multiple megaliths in production. One of the megaliths at about 30%. Do we have a finished megalith on the field? I feel like at this point, yep, there is a finished megalith. My favorite unit in the game. I do love crab. Eating it. There's a form of crab I don't like, but we'll keep it PG and not talk about that one. If you don't know what I'm talking about, stay innocent. But of course, the oh so beautiful megalith continuing to push forward. As I said, my favorite unit in the game, and he's going to be pushing on this position held by Terminator. Currently, Seal Force trying to get some damage done. Needs to be careful that he's not doing the same thing that Team 2 just did on the northern side of the map. Needs to make sure this Megalith does not die in enemy territory, and needs to make sure he does not leave a mass field for his opponents. He's going to have another Megalith coming up behind this. He just needs to keep it alive for a while. That's a lot of bricks, but he has his own brick force trying to help. He's getting shelled by trebuchets, but I'm sure that is just a modicum of damage he has to accept and is willing to accept. Currently, the Megalith continuing to spew out that battleship fire onto the bricks of Terminator. And Terminator is starting to get whittled down over here. He's going to be in danger. Terminator's comm very close. This could be our first ejection. We're 38 minutes in without any kind of ejection. Both teams doing well at keeping their comms alive. And overall, these teams doing decent for themselves. Economy leaders, now Steel Force and Icy Nightmare, both over 300 mass a second. And right now, we're seeing this Megalith start to rack up a lot of damage. Over 1 veterancy already. Don't know if it's paid itself off yet. And we can probably just check that by seeing right here what's the cost of a Megalith. It's 37,000, getting close to paying itself off at 29,000 mass killed, and really going to be putting pressure down here onto RKX. RKX needs to come up with a way to deal with this. This Megalith is damn near untouched and is at 1 rank of veterancy, about to be 2. He needs to deal significant damage to that Megalith in a very short period of time, or he needs his own experimental to kind of fight this off. We have Monkey Lords and Fat Boys now on the way, but this Megalith could be the nail in the coffin for Team 2. If it's not dealt with, it needs to be addressed right now, and there's going to be another Megalith on the way. Another Megalith is already finished. Steel Force finished his second Megalith, and it's going to be walking this way. A Megalith still on the way for Space Whales, and Space Whales also, of course, working on that nuke launcher, kind of trying multiple avenues. He's still getting a ton of reclaim, I would imagine. There's only 15,000 reclaim left over here, which is kind of ridiculous to say. Over here to the east, there is a bit of a unfortunate situation as T3 mass extractors for Space Whales going to be getting killed off by the spearhead spam out from Icy Nightmare. And in the center, there's some bricks now showing up. The Megalith continuing to fight things off almost to that second rank of veterancy as it just continues to kill off unit after unit. A ton of units now coming down, mostly loyalists out from high resolution. Could possibly try and use the suicide charge to get some extra damage done, or even just try and, with all these loyalists is what I'm speaking about, or even just try to get him in to deal some damage to that Megalith. The Megalith being a bit shy. I think maybe he's waiting for the second one to show up, but I don't think he realizes just how much of an advantageous situation he's in. Every moment he waits here is not good for him. He doesn't have air control, so he needs to start pressuring. He needs to move south. I don't know if he's scouted, but moving south is the right call right here, I believe, and Steel Force kind of indecisive. I think he's worried about doing what Team 1 did, or Team 2 did not so long ago, and leaving a massive reclaim field. Worried about leaving his opponent some way into the game, but he is just doing himself a disservice by playing so shy and playing so timid. He's going to start having a lot of damage being poured into this megalith. There's now gunships coming out onto the field to try and help with this. There are now T1 bombers being mass produced by RKX. T1 bombers having a lot of DPS. There's a Monkey Lord now on the field for Terminator. There's more and more renegades being pumped out of the air factory of Terminator. There are these T1 bombers out from RKX, and now we're seeing this megalith's health just start to evaporate before our eyes. Sure, managed to kill off all this stuff, but yet again, this is a reclaim field that is not his, and it's bigger than the reclaim field we saw earlier. We're looking at 80 to 100,000 reclaim, depending on how far you zoom out. And of course, it's going to get very much so larger if this megalith dies in enemy territory. Air, kind of a sore spot for Team 1 currently. Team 2 has 1, 2, I think 3 players at T3 Air. No, just 2 players at T3 Air, but they've been ahead on economy, so they just have more air. It seems as though the ASF maybe had a really bad engagement. I thought I saw a bunch of ASF out for Terminator not so long ago. There's some ASF still over here protecting for RKX. And the double megalith is now on the field. This megalith down to 60,000 HP, which is not, it's not bad. 60,000 HP is still a decent situation to be in. A lot of ASF now trying to be produced by Seal Force. He's trying to get some form of protection for the megaliths. I'd like to see a megalith just try and get into the water. I think you might be able to hide a megalith completely underwater, or at least to make the T1 bomber damage less. Some mobile anti-air now showing up to help out these megaliths as well is going to be very useful. The lightning tanks out from Rex. Over on the eastern side, a restorer ball is starting to form for Carlo, sitting on 13 restorers, and if that continues to grow, if we start seeing 50, 60 restorers, that could be game-changing for Team 1. Overall mass deficit still 300 mass a second in the lead for Team 1. 3 to 400 seems to be the almost permanent mass lead for Team for Team 2. Team 2 ahead by about 3 to 400 mass a second at any given time now. It's going to get less significant, but it is still a significant discrepancy. We're talking about enough mass income right now that if this was a 1v1, 300 mass a second is an extra experimental worth of production. So these players have to be very efficient for Team 1, and they really do, as I said, just need to keep on eco-whoring and keep on getting a little bit better economic situations. Fat Boy finishing up for Icy Nightmare. Double Megalith still on the field for Seal Force. That is a bright spot. And these double megaliths with their very good range going to be able to try and deny this reclaim field from the players of Team 2. High resolution now starting to assist, or now starting to do brick production over Loyalist is what I was trying to say. He was really, I mean, he's done brick and Loyalist production. Maybe he's just mixing it up, doing both. But I think that at this point, Loyalist should probably be phased out. Monkey Lord over here for high resolution. Megalith has finished up for Space Whales. And yet again, we are 43 minutes into this game and still no closer to deciding a victor. This double megalith push looking to be dangerous over here for Team 2. They have double megalith versus one monkey lord. That one monkey lord isn't going to do much. A Fat Boy is going to be showing up, which will put a lot of pressure down onto these megalith. And the T1 bombers coming in to try and kill off the megalith is going to be pretty one-sided. The T1 bomber is going to be shot down. A huge push now coming out, of course, for Seal Force. This is going to be massive. He has to keep stopping to deal with the DPS that's trying to come in behind, but it's obvious he wants to go and attack RKX. RKX still not building up the necessary defenses to deal with the double megalith push, and these two megaliths are going to continue to push forward and continue to try and deal game-ending damage to their opponent. Some renegades coming out trying to deal with this. Is the air fight, did it go in favor of Seal Force? It did, so Seal Force has air control. Oh, one of the megalith is untouched. It's untouched. What are they gonna do? The bricks out from RKX trying to show up to help with this. There's some support commanders that can maybe deal some damage. The damaged megalith sitting in the back, letting the frontal megalith start to take up some of this damage. And this is just going to be unfortunate, but Team 2 starting to falter here as we get into the later game. This double megalith push, just nothing to deal with it. Icy Nightmare, of course, does have a Fat Boy, and I'm sure it's coming on its way, but is the pathfinding good enough? It's stuck. It's hitting the mountain behind him. There's a Monkey Lord and all these units out from high resolution coming in behind. These megalith probably do die here, but the question is, how much damage can they do? They just need to get in here and focus down the T3 power generators, and that's going to be crippling damage dealt to RKX, who has been a real highlight player for Team 2. I'd like to see the megalith start focusing on the base. I think at this point you're too far committed. The megalith don't get out. Another megalith shows up now, but this time for Team 1, or for Team 2. Team 1 losing their first megalith. That megalith with all of the veterancy. Of course, this is going to be trading out one megalith for another, but I think this is a mistake coming out from Steel Force. He needs to deal the economic damage. He was so close. He needed it. He should have realized this was a sacrificial play. He should have realized that his megalith weren't going to survive. If he had just focused on the power generators, he would have dealt game ending damage maybe to RKX, push RKX back to the Stone Age economically in comparison to where he is now. Second megalith gonna be going down to the forces out from RKX and Terminator, and this is just a mass dump. Mass dumps upon mass dumps in this game. Dump trucks of mass being thrown at each other and not being effectively utilized on both sides. Both teams making these massive mistakes, but the issue is you cannot afford these mistakes when you are down now 400 to 500 mass a second permanently. Your team has been so behind economically. You're 250,000 mass behind your opponent in total generation, and you just dropped over 1/10 mass on your opponent's base. Strategic launch detected, but where is it being sent? Where could you possibly send this where it would be effective? Your opponents have known you've had a nuke for so long. There's no way you're expecting this to just go sunshine and rainbow. You're going to be killing off a soothsayer. A soothsayer. This is not even going to be that damaging to Icy Nightmare and the entire team. There's multiple soothsayers, actually. Wow, RKX really a fan of soothsayers, which, you know what? Props. He has half of the map lit up in vision. That is quite impressive. The nuke does land. At this point, you know what would have been the best use of that nuke? Nuke right here. Nuke right here. The biggest section of this mass field. Or maybe right here is bigger. This is bigger. Nuke right here. Get rid of the mass field for Team 2. That would probably have been the best use of that nuke. Unironically. If he has another nuke loaded up, that would be what I would do. Or I would be asking him to do if I was Steel Force, because I think Steel Force realizes that he made a bit of a mistake, a blunder there. And maybe I'm wrong. I am not above criticism. If you think that I'm wrong and that he did the right play by focusing the experimentals, tell me down in the comments. I like to have a discussion about these games, and I'd like to hear your all's opinions, so let me know what you think down in the comments, of course, along with your favorite flavor of ice cream, as I asked in the beginning. Galactic Colossus now on its way out to fight for Carlo. First experimental he's built, not the first he's piloted, though. And a bit of a fight going on right here for the forces out from High Resolution, Icy Nightmare, Carlo, and Space Wells. The Monkey Lord got into range of the GC. These two going to be trading blows. I think the GC probably dies first. Nope, but I think both die. I think that there's enough bricks here in conjunction with the Fat Boy Fire to leave that GC on 0 HP. The fallen heroes of this match. There's been so much death and destruction strewn across this battlefield, and it seems that we're no closer to finding a conclusion to this match. Fat Boy going to be going down to Restorers. And overall, an absolutely crazy match coming out from these players. From these players. I think I said these two players. If I did, that was wrong. The amount of experimentals in this game is ludicrous. Right over here, 3 experimentals died. There's another experimental here, and I wouldn't be surprised to see another experimental walking up this way from Team 2. But there's still more experimentals. There's always at least 4 to 5 experimentals on the map. Right now, one thing that I'm seeing that I think is a bit dire for Team 1, or for Team 2, is they don't have that many experimentals in the long haul, in the entirety of things. They have, I don't see a megalith or a bunch of monkey lords or a chicken or anything like that out for Team 2. Team 2 is sitting on hopes and prayers and T3 units, because there's a megalith over here on the northern side, and that's the good news. On the southern side, there's 2 megalith and a Yathoda. And as we reach the 50-minute mark almost, I want to take a look at the reclaim values. Space Whales! Earlier, we were talking about Space Whales and that colossal mass field he got into. That has boosted it up to 150,000 reclaim. Seal Forest sitting on 115,000. This massive reclaim field now starting to boost RKX up to 82,000. Terminator and Icy Nightmare both in 40,000 range, and everybody else below that, not really significant in the reclaim field. But Space Whales and Seal Forest doing amazing on reclaim, and that's what's keeping Team 1 in this. Strategic launch detected. This time, it's a nuke coming out. Is this a nuke from Icy Nightmare? Icy Nightmare is not only nuking the army, he's nuking the mass field, which, in fairness, I think is a good play for Team 2 as well. Sure, the mass field is nice, but this large section of the mass field was theirs. This section over here, it's arguable if it's theirs or not, and more experimental's gonna die, a nuke gonna land on top of a chicken and a megalith. The chicken may die immediately. The megalith gonna live. Megalith, one of the few units in the game able to face tank a nuke, but the issue is the megalith is gonna die, I think, to the chicken death. The chicken is dead over here. Yeah, the Ion Storm, it's gonna deal massive damage to this megalith. You can see thousands of HP being taken off. The megalith is gonna die to the chicken's explosion. The chicken's death is gonna kill the megalith. And man, oh man, is this game turning into an experimental graveyard. Another nuke launch, this time going for another Soothsayer location built up by RKX. RKX, I'm sure, not happy with this, investing so much into Vision, and now going to be losing all of it just because nuclear launch detected. A lot of transports out over here for Seal Force. And a ton of strap bombers built up for Seal Force. We could see snipes coming in very soon, and snipes would be an effective play. At this point, one of the harder points of playing FAF in the later game is the amount of APM required. You have to be managing a lot even with one base. There's a lot to do and a lot to work on. That gets harder, significantly harder, when you have to do it against you when you're at a deficit APM wise, and that might be a way to kind of mitigate this eco advantage. But we're looking at a stage of the game where players have so much economy that players are starting to build Scathis. Terminator working on Scathis. Soul Ripper now on the way for high resolution, which if they have air control might be a good play. Icy Nightmare sitting on a huge economy. Speaking of economies, RKX, Icy Nightmare, and RKX, Icy Nightmare, high resolution, Seal Force, all above 300 mass income a second. And RKX, the only player over 400, which is to be expected whenever you build 4 quantum gateways and never stop producing with them and give them the giant mass efficiency bonus of full mass fab ringing. Going to mean that 29 mass a second is a decent drain on his economy, but he has that times 4, and it's building him a lot of economy. And now we have disruptors on the way in mass for RKX. He's building them on an area where Icy Nightmare is trying to build mass fab farms. Speaking of Icy Nightmare building mass fab farms, he's doing that. And we have one disruptor finished just now, just very recently. Another disruptor on the way. And this is going to be the supreme late game of Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. Strategic launches just being used on armies, nuclear point defense. And the experimental graveyard is turning into a nuclear wasteland. I will be curious to see how many experimentals were built. Megaliths, chickens, all of the units being produced. A Wassa soon on the way, more chickens on the way, Megaliths on the way, Scathis on the way. It's easier to say what experimentals aren't on the way at this point. We're 51 minutes in, and both teams cranking out quite a respectable play so far. Both teams fighting hard, both teams deserving of a win for the amount of effort they've put in, but that's not how the world works, and one of these teams will have to fall by the wayside this game and will have to be destroyed. Overall, Team 2, the more business-minded people, the ones with the investment portfolios and the large bank accounts, while Team 1, the more efficiency-driven team, the team focused more on the minutia of their tactics and what exactly they want to do to gain territory and cause damage and inflict damage on their opponents. And overall, it's led to an epic match between these two teams. And overall, it's going to lead to more and more amazing plays, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Disruptor now on the way for for Space Whales. Seal Force not working on any such standoff technology just yet. Not seeing any game enders other than the Scathis from earlier, which I'm not even sure if it's a huge priority. No, it is. Scathis now up to 44% into the yellow HP-wise. Another Disruptor over halfway done for Icy Nightmare. Or not for Icy Nightmare, for RKX. He's played a stunning game. RKX, one of... he is a 1,000 rated player. He's not even one of the highest rated players in the game. In fact, he's, I think, in the lower half of players. I'm pretty sure half of the players in the game are higher rated than him, but he has played a stunning game so far. Megaliths and chickens duking it out here in the middle, but does it even matter when people are using nukes as point defense? Mass Strat Bomber Wave of Shift G Strat Bomber Wave gonna take out half of the land force over here for Icy Nightmare. Land forces are just seemingly obsolete. Nobody is able to get meaningful damage done with them. And it seems as though we're going to have to rely on that standoff technology. Teleporter now on the way. Laser and gun damage and range finished up for Space Whales. Let's do a check. Who is in a vulnerable position? I don't know where the comm of RKX is, but wherever it is, it of course needs to be protected. Is it on the front lines? RKX, where have you stashed away your commander? Over here, not really protected. RKX under threat of that Telemazer doing significant damage. Icy Nightmare not sitting on too much of a protection either. Doesn't have his own Ravager setup. I know he likes to set up Ravagers. He was speaking to me the other day about how he likes to set up Ravagers, and if he sees the teleportation, he likes to ground fire on where it's coming in, and it will kill the comm before it can even really damage the UEF comm. And wait, no, he does have some Ravagers. He has 3. So as long as he sees the teleportation coming in, he's good. High resolution, not protected. Most of the players on Team 2 not really prepared for a situation in which they could be telemazered. Of course, Telemazer would be unfortunate if it doesn't get too terribly much done. The Disruptor station still being built, but not as much focus as it was not so long ago. Let's look at these teams for what they have. RKX, the leader economically, nearly 500 mass a second, and that alone is the mass generation differential is ridiculous. It's still 500 or more mass a second coming in for Team 2, and it's starting to show. Scathis are being built. Multiple Disruptors online before Team 1 able to get even a single T3 artillery online. And I think that the weight of the situation is about to start crushing Team 1, they have all these strat bombers, and now they need to use them. They need to get meaningful damage done. I've been speaking about it for a while, but efficiency will only take you so far, and more shit counters less shit. And when we're talking about standoff technology like disruptor stations and Scathis, more shit will just win. Icy Nightmare being a Pog champ, being a beautiful person, giving away T3 UEF tech to all of his allies. Don't know if he's pinged that or made them aware of that yet, but it is nice to see players sharing technology when we get into the Supreme late game. Give people options, and it will pay off. The Cybrins of Team 2, of course, not very much tech. Not a very wide array of tech for these teams. And as I was speaking about earlier, you have chances for these air plays where players aren't thinking about it, but this area over here traversable by air units, and we're gonna see a strat bomber snipe coming down towards, I would guess, RKX. I don't know exactly where he wants to attack. The ping's coming out, and now you need to see these players doing what they need to do. RKX does have a Soothsayer online, and it's going to, and of course they do have all of this set up. No Omni. These ASF did come within Omni range, but this has to be suspicious for Team 2. This has to be a situation where you're looking at it and you're like, this can't be right. And we could see these disruptor stations go down. We could see a snipe onto Icy Nightmare, who statistically would be the best player to snipe as he's the highest rated. He's the most likely to be able to handle all of these bases. The strat bombers coming in, don't know what their orders are, but we will get a cinematic shot of it nonetheless, as these beautiful, beautiful Revenant strat bombers, the greatest strategic bomber around, come in and gonna drop their payloads. Or no! Was the drop botched? What is going on? The strat bombers didn't drop their payloads. Now they're getting shot at by a bunch of T3 SAMs. The strat bombers being mistargeted is a huge mistake out from Seal Force, and this was a one-time play. You don't get to do this again. Team 2 is now hyper aware that this can happen. And Seal Force, I don't know why I keep confusing their names, with that huge blunder decides to either control K, or maybe he dies to some kind of play out from Team 2. But Team 1 on the brink of collapse now. The artillery seemingly taking its toll. That was either him control K-ing or his power generation field getting blown up and killing him along with it. That could have been huge. That could have been the play to get Team 1 into the driver's seat. You could have killed off a lot of economy for RKX by getting all of these power generators. It could have chain reacted into if you just kill a couple of these SCUs, it could have chain reacted into a huge issue for Team 2. It could have been huge, but coulda, shoulda, woulda. It is, of course, disaster and very, very sad for Team 1. And I think with that play, it's looking pretty dire. It's looking like Team 2 may have sealed the deal. Scathis now built for Terminator. 3 disruptors online for RKX. Icy Nightmare with a nuke launcher. If they kill off anti-nukes, then this game is 100% over. The experimental graveyard that is Falconstone River, after these players have graced us with this epic match. I don't generally like saying epic match, but there's hardly words that can describe it, such as the word epic, coming from tales of old, of long, crazy battles, or long, crazy tales, and this, of course, if there was a game deserving of the title, it is this one. As we crest the hour mark, it does seem like we're very much so closer to finding a victor this time. It seems as though we're closer to the resolution of this match either way, as I think these players are aware that it's rounding out to the end. Team 1, I think in their death throes, have to make desperation plays if they want any chance of winning. And wait, is that? What was that? Was that a Yolona? Was that no? That was an Awasa. out from Rex. I think he's trying to use Awasa's. It did drop a bomb, but you could start control K-ing Awasa's. You are in the area where you still have enough mass to make that happen. Control K-ing Awasa's would be a decent strategy, in my opinion. The Scathis not going down is unfortunate. I think I'd like to see that go in. The Scathis does kill off some of the economy of high resolution, but he's still over 350 mass income. He's not hurting. He has a ton of support commanders. The teleporter is done for Space Whales, but he's on no HP! If the Scathis rain down another few shots, he just dies. He's trying to teleport, but he's teleporting with 1500 HP. This is a desperation play. Scathis fire coming in. Is he even going to be able to launch? No! Terminator with the Scathis fire kills off Space Whales before he's able to teleport out. And with that, the game is over. I'm going to leave you with the beautiful view of this large base. It seems like it's all running together now of these players and all of this firing happening. Thank you all for joining me today. Thank you to my patrons. This match is, of course, going to end for Team 1. You know what? No, I can't. I've been trying to do the cinematic endings where I just leave you with a beautiful view, but I don't want to leave you without being able to see what's going on. Rex control Ks. It's down to Carlo, the mass efficient man, the man trying to set up a restore ball. Never really quite worked out for him. Still has restores, but overall, just seems like it's over. Okay, you know what? Now I will give you that beautiful view of the base. That bath porn that we all know and love. Thank you to the Patreons. Thank you all for watching today. You all are beautiful. I appreciate all the support you all give me. Like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Comment down below. Tell me your opinions on this match and your opinions on my casting. You all are beautiful. I'll see you in the next one. Willow out.